Hi, I'm Hazel. It's Saturday today, which makes it time to sit down and catch up on the WoW news of the week, what I have been up to, and answer some of your questions. This week, we finally had a big news week. Blizzard announced 10.2, they posted an official preview video, and then proceeded to give interviews to a variety of creators and outlets. Today, I want to scrape together my favorite headlines, biggest pieces of news that we've gotten so far this week. Two things that I will stipulate right off the top, though, that we do not know yet, is there is currently no release date for 10.2. We don't even really have a release window besides fall. We can guess, but nothing's confirmed yet. And then secondly, Blizzard is being kind of cagey about whether or not 10.2 is the last major patch of Dragonflight. They don't want to say, which means that either they don't know yet, or they do know and they don't think we're going to like the answer, and they're trying to find a way to, good news sandwich it. But that's something that I betcha we're going to find out more about at BlizzCon in November. So, things that we do know about the patch so far. It is an Emerald Dream patch zone, and the new raid is a 9-boss raid taking place in the new Sprouting World Tree Emirdrasil. You've got some Emerald Dream-themed bosses and some Druid of the Flame Fiery-themed bosses. Firak, or Frank, as I've fallen into the habit of calling him, is going to be our final boss for 10.2. After seeing our first Primal Aspect fight with Raszageth, I'm expecting big things from Firak. One thing that lots of people have been asking about, including one of last week's news video questions, is when we can normal fly in Dragonlands, and it turns out the answer is 10.2. A new Pathfinder achievement is going to be added to the game in 10.2, and that will let you use non-dragon riding mounts in the Dragon Isles. Something lots of people have been asking for, so great news that it's confirmed. I will be more excited when I see it working on the PTR, because I guess I have no faith, but it's promising to be promised something. Our Season 3 Mythic Plus dungeon pool has been announced. This is what it looks like. We're going to get both halves of the Dawn of the Infinite Mega Dungeon as separate Mythic Plus dungeons. There's also Waycrest Manor, Darkheart Thicket, Blackrock Hole, the Everbloom, Throne of Tides, and Atal Dazar. So that makes 2 Legion, 2 BFA, 1 WoD, 1 Kata dungeon, and then of course Dawn of the Infinites are both Dragonflight dungeons. Nice kind of even spread. I think that Throne of Tides is the most eyebrow-raising one for me. I'm assuming that they would make the optional boss mandatory. And then I wonder if they would speed the elevator up, because I remember that jellyfish elevator taking a very long time to do its thing. Maybe if they don't speed it up, they should add some elevator music that plays only while you're in that area, just to remind you of how much time is passing while you're waiting for the jellyfish. I am really excited to see Waycrest Manor and the Everbloom again in particular. I think it's too early to judge which ones are going to be the good keys and which ones are going to be the rough keys, because by the time the hotfixes and all the balancing is done, it's tough to say. The early timers for these dungeons look pretty long, but I bet you anything those get tightened up as PTR testing goes on. We'll have to see. Oh, and I also think that Atal Dazar in particular is a really smart pick for a Mythic Plus dungeon pool dungeon, both because it's kind of a fun dungeon and you can do it in a variety of different orders for people that like to pick different routes to kind of optimize their less timing and whatnot. But secondly, because that is a dungeon that a lot of new players that did dungeons while leveling might be familiar with, because it's one of the earliest default dungeons that you're going to end up in queue for. If you've made a new character and you've queued up for a random dungeon without choosing any particular chromie time, it's very likely that it's put you into an Atal Dazar. So that's a dungeon that a lot of more recent players might be familiar with already. It's also a lot easier when you've leveled enough to get things like interrupts. Other news from 10.2, there's going to be a new legendary weapon coming. It's a 2-handed strength axe called Firalath, the Dream Render. Interviews have confirmed that it is not tied to a specific class, but as a strength weapon, it is a Death Knight Paladin Warrior thing. No evokers can use 2-handed axes, but they just got one. They're good. In the announcement, Blizzard mentioned that they have been listening to the feedback from Embers of Neltharion, which you can read to mean from the Evoker Legendary, and they want players to feel like they can earn this new legendary axe over time and feel rewarded for their time in the raid. That's good. I'm glad. Good for them. As for another gearing-related piece of news, Crests, the upgrade item, is going to be a currency in Season 3. So they're doing Crests again. We're going to get Dreambound Crests, but they're not going to be items in your bag, and there will be no fragments for them. They will just be rewarded in entire Crests each. The current Crests are, I believe, staying the same and going to continue to be tied to Season 2 stuff, but you're going to get new Dreambound Crests, and you will not have them clogging up your bags. You will have them clogging up your currency tab, which is a separate issue. At least in the currency tab, you can have as many things as you want, and you can also like hide things if you don't want to look at them anymore, so that does help. In Mr. GM's interview, they did share that if you get a crest that you were already capped on, it's going to automatically reward you with the next level of crest down from there. And that interview also mentioned that Heroic, Mythic Zero, and even Time Walking dungeons are all going to count towards the Great Vault, which makes it way easier for people that are more casually PvEing or just getting into grouped content to actually get some weekly loot. You don't have to do Mythic Plus or Raid in order to get Vault options. You'll be able to get some goodies to choose from, even if you're just doing random Heroics, Mythic Zeros, or Time Walking. For the PvPers, 10.2 has a new brawl coming called Battleground Blitz that is kind of like a testing format for solo queue rated RBGs. People might remember that for solo queue Arena, that started as a brawl as well, so this is kind of following that same footprint. Battleground Blitz is going to use all of the currently active Battleground maps, so it sounds like it is functionally just solo queue for RBGs. There are also lots of new cosmetics coming in 10.2, of course, and the preview video showed off a couple of them. We got a little sneak peek at the Fey Dragon skin for dragon riding mounts that I'm really excited about. A Fire Owl mount, we have just like a little sneaky peek of it. Mr. GM confirmed from his interview that that is a drop from Mythic Firak in the raid, and it's going to be the first non-dragon to dragon ride, which is kind of cool. There are some new druid forms coming, specifically for Moonkins, but other new druid forms as well. There will be some fiery forms to go with the new Druid of the Flame themes, and then just more boomkin forms in general. Balanced druids have been kind of dry on new customizations in recent years, so this is really exciting for them. So those are the big things that drew my attention. I'm sure I've missed some stuff, but we've got lots of time as the patch develops and goes through PTR and starts raid testing, of course, to kind of pick and choose new things to talk about. And then in my life this week, I have reached level 25 on a hardcore character. It's my Night Elf Hunter. She's going very slow and steady, and the higher level I get, the more scared I get to play her. So I've been making like newer, lower level characters because I'm too chicken to play my level 25. She's just so grown up looking. I don't want her to die. And then in retail, I have decided, and I am committing, I don't know if my raid team knows that I mean it yet, but I do mean it. I'm switching back to my Gnome Priest for Season 3. I'm not going to be an Evoker main anymore. I am genuinely switching, partly because I'm tired of farming the Evoker Legendary, and I would rather switch to a class that didn't have one than either keep farming or raid without it as an Evoker. And then partly because I just really miss being a gnome. Playing hardcore made me realize how much fun being a gnome is and how good it felt to play one again. And I just want to main a gnome in retail. So I'm a Gnome Priest again. Inksy's getting dusted off. I'm going to have to get her some gear before Season 3. Or I can just be lazy and get gear in Season 3. I'm sure that works too. But I'm going back to Priest. I'm going to be about this tall wearing all that cloth mug. And then in real life, I just had my 31st birthday. As I'm recording this, it is currently my birthday. By the time you see this, I will be 31 years in another day. My plans for the day include lots of puppy and kitty cat cuddles and time with family. And questions for this week. Claudia wants to know, why is the trading post 60/59 days this time around? So this is a really interesting one. If you look at this month's current trading post offerings and you're tabbing through them, some of them are 60 days, specifically this big fancy staff says it has 60 days left, and the rest of the things seem to be largely 30. I'm assuming this just gives us extra time to kind of budget and consider whether or not you want to buy the big fancy pretty staff. It's a weird thing for them to not like announce as a part of their announcement post though, or maybe they said something and I missed it. But yeah, that staff in particular at least is 60 days, but not everything is. So take that into consideration when you are making your budgeting decisions. It's almost like having an extra item frozen for free. So I would certainly say don't freeze the staff. You freeze something else because it looks like the staff's going to stick around anyways, unless it's some kind of a funky UI bug that they patch before the end of the month. And then Kit Francis wants to know, have you heard anything about a potential day-night cycle fix for Oceania players in the works? Our time's locked in game to the US, which means the whole day in real world Australia's night in Azeroth. It's sad to miss out on all the beautiful zones in daylight color. So it's not a perfect fix, but they did add a thing. Back in patch 8.2, they added this toy called the Jar of Sun-Warmed Sand. You can buy it in the Caverns of Time off a vendor for 1,000 time warp badges. And what it's going to do is it's going to give you 2 hours of turning Azeroth into daylight on a 24-hour cooldown. I wish that the cooldown was a little bit shorter, but if you're playing different characters, each character gets their own cooldown of it. It would be nice if you could do it more often, but it is better than nothing. And if you're playing for, 2 hours or less a day, then there you go. It's daytime. I love this toy. I use it often. I have a habit of needing to get footage of like mounts and stuff in WoW, and I always need it in like the middle of the night. So I tend to use this a lot just to make the lighting much nicer. And it is currently time walking. So if you need time warped badges, you are able to farm them right now for that toy. And that has been the week. Thank you very much for watching. If you have any questions for any news video, please leave it in the comments. The most recent one, include the word question. Particularly if there's something about the patch announcement that I just totally missed that you want to hear what I think about, then please let me know, and I'll see if I can catch up on all the leftover bits next week. Thank you guys so much, and I hope you have a wonderful, wonderful day.